I love the inflation. Everything was going well, and I said, I hate to do this to you guys, but Iran's going to have a nuclear weapon very soon. But now I'm going to take it down a little bit because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. When the war is over,
yes,
it's coming down.
I know you can't.
It's going to come down like a rock.
President Trump, not fazed by the latest economic data, telling reporters, I love the inflation. It comes as the so-called...
I love the inflation. What are we doing?
Don't get started, everybody.
That would be like Keith
Everybody?
That would be like Keith Richards in a police station just blurting out, I love the cocaine, man. I love the cocaine. I mean,
It is so
I
early.
love the inflation, Willie. I mean, what? Why?
I was trying to just
what's
go
he doing
straight
here?
through here.
I mean, we've had blurred, he calls affordability BS. He's like, I love the inflation, man. I mean, what's going on here?
It's incredible. I mean, this comes a couple of weeks after I don't care about people's financial situations. There's now this entire catalog of lines where he's just saying the worst possible thing you could say if you were trying to, let's say, keep your party in power in the fall.
Yeah, well, it's really incredible.
You got to wonder why you don't care about that.
Nobody doesn't not care about that. I want to talk about something that happened, Mika. Last night, there's a pickup game.
Yeah, I know.
On the corner of, I think there's a basketball game. I didn't see it. I'm kind of in this little mirror thing. You know, is it better for Boston to win or New York to lose? In all things. But I understand, Willie, that a basketball game broke out after some sage was spread around the neighborhood block. Kids came out and played a little bit of basketball on the corner of 7th and 33rd. What happened?
Yeah, I was there. I happened to be walking by with a beer that I bought in a brown paper bag at the bodega, looking through the chain link fence, watching this pickup game. No, I was at the Garden last night for the most extraordinary sporting event I've ever seen in person, especially given the stakes that it was the NBA Finals, the New York Knicks.
You New York Knicks fans, you gloat, and we'll see what happens. Now, here's hoping that the Knicks do something they haven't done since the glory years of New York sports and win it all. It would be fantastic for them.
All right. Also with us this morning, U.S. national editor and columnist at the Financial Times, Ed Luce. We're going to be.
He's a big Spurs fan, by the way.
Yes, he is. We're going to be going through. We're going to be going through yesterday's closed-door meeting, deposition before the House Oversight Committee, Bill Gates, into its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Also, we have more on the new reporting by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan on the struggle within the White House to contain the fallout from the Epstein files.
It's incredible.
And once again, President Trump has thrown the SAVE Act back into things.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that. But first, the big story this morning. The United States and Iran traded strikes this morning. President Trump told Fox News the U.S. fired 49 Tomahawk missiles toward Iran, along with bombing by fighter jets, after saying earlier in the day Iranian leaders were taking too long to negotiate. The president also once again warned strikes would continue if an agreement is not reached. Iran retaliated to the latest U.S. attacks by targeting U.S. bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. Sirens sounded in Bahrain. Kuwait's airspace was temporarily closed and Americans in Jordan were warned to take cover. There is also escalated tension in the Strait of Hormuz, which the Iranian military has now completely ordered to be closed to all vessels.
You know, Mika, like we said yesterday, the president has been way too eager for a deal, and he's paid for it. The Wall Street Journal editorial page has a new piece out this morning, and it's called Trump Needs a New Iran Strategy.
It goes on to say Iran's large strike on Kuwait's airport was not a big deal, Mr. Trump said. A mere tit for tat. He said the same for Iran's Sunday strike on Israel, urging it not to reply since the missiles didn't hurt anybody. That logic leads to trouble. Only by a miracle did 2 U.S. pilots survive after an Iranian drone struck and burned inside their Apache helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz on Monday. Yet Mr. Trump's early reaction was to say that this, too, wasn't a big deal.
An attack on an Apache helicopter.
Mr. Trump won't want to hear it. but he has been dancing to Iran's tune. He will have to break from it or go down as losing the war politically despite the early military gains. Mr. Trump still hopes for a diplomatic breakthrough, but even the press's favorite unnamed Pakistani officials are now downbeat. As long as Iran believes Mr. Trump is stuck with no alternative, it will squeeze him in the talks and in Hormuz. The president's choice now is to alter the facts on the ground or leave the conflict in a worse position than Mr. Bush did in Iraq.
And they had talked about in this op-ed about what George W. Bush did with at the in 07 with the surge and how it made a difference, and said he's going to have to figure out militarily how to open up the strait and keep the strait open. Also, he may want to go in and do a joint operation with the Israelis to seize their nuclear material. Very risky move, the Wall Street Journal editorial says. But sitting back and waiting for the Iranians to negotiate and on the Iranians' goodwill. Ed Luce always leads to trouble. You, of course, as everybody knows, you wrote the biography of Dr. Brzezinski. That gets you inside the Carter White House during those tortuous days where Chris Matthews has said time and time again on this show, we would be told there was going to be a deal. We got excited. We did everything we thought that would line up the deal to get the hostages home. And then the Iranians would pull the rug out from under us. And he said they did it time and time again. This is what they do. They just play U.S. presidents. And if those U.S. presidents look like they need a deal, that's when things get really tough, because that's when the Iranians clamp down.
Yeah, I mean, they are famously known worldwide, not just as Iranians, but as Persians through history, as very tough hagglers and negotiators. And they play for time, and they feint, and they walk off, and they play mind games with the people they're negotiating with. Carter did discover this to his lasting cost several times during that 1980 presidential campaign with Reagan. It looked like a deal to release the hostages was about to happen, really 4 or 5 times, and that would have transformed the mood on the campaign trail. And then Iran pulled the rug. And it turns out, Iran really needed weapons, because Saddam Hussein's Iraq had just invaded Iran. Iran really needed weapons, so that was finally the leverage Carter had been seeking to get those hostages out. And they kept going right up to the brink of a deal, and lots of public positive statements from the White House, and then Iran would pull the rug. Now, there's a theory as to, why that might have been happening in terms of the Reagan campaign's back-channel communications with the Iranians. But this has been going on for 47 years at least. I mean, U.S. presidents, with patience and time and a strategy and a theory of the case, like Barack Obama had with the 2015 nuclear deal, might get somewhere. But if you're in a hurry, Iran's got more time.
Yeah, they've got more time, and they will walk away. As David Ignatius told us yesterday, you have to let the Iranians know that you're willing to walk away. That you don't want the rug, or you don't want the nuclear deal. You've got to be willing to do that. They weren't. This headline, Willie, I just am noticing this headline. We have seen a headline in Financial Times for Ed Luce's article that somehow manages to insult supporters of both of the gentlemen in that headline. Trump supporters going, how dare you compare us to Jimmy Carter? And Jimmy Carter supporters saying, how dare you compare such a good man to Donald Trump? But there it is. The common denominator, Iran.
Yes.
It is, if you depend on the goodwill of Iran's negotiators, and if they see a weakness, man, they know how to leverage that, and they will exploit it. And Jimmy Carter had an election in 1980 that he was trying to make everything just right for, and the Iranians wouldn't do it. And now you have Donald Trump. They know he has the midterms to worry about, so they are not worried about making a deal right now.
And he says he doesn't care about the midterms. He said that out loud, too. But he is clearly desperate to get a deal and to walk away from this war. Remember, he said again a couple of weeks ago, he's kind of bored. He finds his negotiations boring. He doesn't quite care. He'd love to turn the page to something else. And Richard, at the beginning of this war, President Trump thought he could bomb Iran into submission. We're the United States of America. We can do whatever we need to do. We heard that kind of swagger from the defense secretary as well. And it has turned out that Iran, as always, for generations and centuries, is a much more complicated problem than that is. So if the president is in the Situation Room yesterday talking to his national security team about new strikes, I guess the question is, to what end? You bomb more targets, and then what happens?
Well, that's the emptiness of the Wall Street Journal editorial. That's the emptiness of the Secretary of War, as he now calls himself, saying that we're going to bomb our way to successful negotiations. There's nothing in history, recent or distant, that suggests that will be the case. Iran is pretty good at taking punches. So that's the triumph of hope over strategy, the triumph of hope over history and over experience. So that's not going to work. Plus, as we've seen, the United States appears to have hit a water storage area in southern Iran. Well, what do we want to see? Do we want to see Iran go after the Saudi desalinization plants? Do we want to see, basically, most of the energy infrastructure and water infrastructure in the region has been off limits. The last thing in the world we should want to see is what has been a crisis become a true calamity for the region and the world. So we've got to be really careful. So not only will more military action probably not bring the negotiating result, escalation will not serve us. The president knows that, which, by the way, is the reason
what's the
he's
answer
been so
then?
hesitant.
What's the answer then, Richard? Is the answer using military options to open the strait? Is it the status quo? What is, if you were advising the president this morning, what would it be? What would you tell him?
I would tell him, on the nuclear, just continue to send the message. So long as you don't change the status of the nuclear materials, we won't attack that. That's fine. We've lived with that for months, Joe. We can that, and there'll be no financial transfers of any sort until you open the strait. We keep the blockade in place, and we have to wait. That is our strategy for now. It might mean waiting a little bit long. Iran is in serious economic difficulty, and what we try to do, I think we where we can, we ramp up economic pressure on Iran. That is ultimately the Achilles heel of the regime.
You sound like you agree with J.D. Vance more than Donald Trump, who always says this deal is 2 or 3 days away. J.D. Vance saying this may take a year. If you wanted, he didn't say if you want to do it the right way, but he said we may be in this fight for a year. But what you're saying is if you want to do this the right way and you're the president, you're just going to have to wait it out. It's not going to be in 3 days. It's not going to be in 5 days. It might be in 3 to 5 months where you maintain the status quo. You have this sort of Cold War. And you wait for Iran to need a deal because they're being so choked off economically by the Richard Haas blockade. Trademark reserved 2026, Richard Haas.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think it'll be a year. I think it's sooner than that. It is, again, as I was saying, the Achilles